Welcome to the ExtraTime Podcast, powered by the Real Football League, the official league of Real Football 24. I'm Ronamic, you can just call me Rono, and I'll be hosting today's first episode of the ExtraTime Podcast, and I'm joined by probably the best defender in RFL in any league we've seen so far, Soccerton. He's a great friend of mine, and I'm honored to have him on the first episode of the ExtraTime Podcast. A lot of you might know him as wvyvw, but I'm just going to call him Sock for this podcast. Hey, man, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me here.
Man, first up, I mean, RFL, you know, I just want to talk about kind of the early stages of your career, getting into Roblox soccer and what it means to you, you know. What year did you start playing this?
Man, if I had to look back, I've started playing, TPS, the casuals gameplay. Everyone's played TPS, Tayfun's TPS. Like 2011, I think that was where I kicked off, and then all up until 2014, that's where I found MPS. That's where the journey began.
Wow, that's a long journey, man. Yeah, I remember meeting you back in the day, really early on. But so, how different is it back then? 2011. A lot of the people watching this probably weren't even born yet. So, I think it might be hard to fathom what the game was like at the time. I mean, what did it feel like to play, a soccer game where you can be the player and be, sort of this professional athlete in a video game? What did that feel like at the time? Do you remember that?
Honestly, it felt real. Like you could go on FIFA and you could play pro clubs, but if you were to hop on TPS, you realize it's not even the same. You have more control than you think you do. And every input you put on the keyboard, if you want to do like dribbling or passing or shooting out, it all feels real, and it's all because it's all coming from you and your input, and that's what I like.
Yeah,
it's like
that's really interesting.
It's all real, very real.
And a lot of people, I think I see that a lot. When people ask us how old we are, and we say we're in our 20s. People are kind of taken aback, but that's something they don't realize is a game like this. It's more fun than FIFA. It's way more fun. Like you said, you have more control, more input. The things you do, it's you. You can put your own spin or style of play on something, whereas in FIFA, you don't really have that control. And I think that's the difference. But yeah, that's really cool. Going down the years, I mean, we've got TPS, and I believe MPS started after that, and then we've got a lot of side leagues. Skipping a lot of time ahead, now we're in 2023, 2024 here, and we've got Real Football 24. This game, it's huge. It's taken Roblox by storm. It's one of the most popular Roblox football games, soccer games on the platform. When did you first discover the game? Can you recall that?
Well, a buddy of mine, I don't remember who, happened to advertise it somewhere on a server that I don't remember where it was, but I picked it up from there, and I was looking at a few of the sneak peeks on the Discord server, and I was like, wow, this is a game that I'm pretty much kind of familiar with the way I was looking. Like, just looking at it through the sneak peeks, I was like, hey, it's a lot like ECL, or like what they used to call like R15 MPS, and
right.
It is what it is. It's real football, and that's exactly what it showed me. And I haven't even touched the game since then. And when I have, I'm like, holy shit, this is a lot better than I thought it'd be.
Yeah. Are there things about Real Football 24 that kind of, I don't know, what's different about it than it is from TPS back in the day for you?
Well, that would be the features where you would have like it would be like almost similar to FIFA. You'd have penalties. It'll act like previous FIFAs. You would take a penalty, and it's like in his animation. And same with free kicks. It's unique. It's not something that you see every day. I don't think I've seen it in any game, actually. This is the first time I've seen it implemented in a real football game, or soccer is what they call it. But
Yeah, it's
that that's what makes it unique. But not just that, you don't also see, for someone like me that's played MPS, everything's in R6, you know. But with these rigs, the R15, it looks so much better. It looks cleaner. It looks fun. Everything like what I was just talking about before. TPS being feeling real to me. This game feels even real now.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that. We've had the game now for a while, a couple months. I can't, I don't know exactly how long. Probably about what, 7 months now. It's been public, maybe less. I could be totally wrong. But there's a lot that's already happened. I mean, we've already released the RFL, Real Football League, the official league of Real Football 24. I think that's huge news. And I heard you are probably going to play on the team I'm on, actually. So, what's your thoughts on RFL? What do you think that? How do you think RFL will be? Do you think it'll be different than some of the leagues some of the people watching have seen? Do you think it'll be more competitive? What's your take on RFL?
Well, with it being different, that's hard to say considering that, you and I no, we've both played several leagues and so-called side leagues, correct? And all of them have like these different formats. All of them are unique to each other. But to make it different, I I don't think it'll be that much different from what we've played, but I think it was just gonna be the difference is gonna be bigger. The like there's social media for each club. There's like interactions like between fans and supporters. You know, like the way RFL presents itself, like it's presenting itself like almost like an esport, which
Right.
which makes it like feel competitive and like you know feel real. Like I say that a lot, but it really is.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think the potential RFL has, to make a huge impact in this community, not just in the Real Football 24 community, but like the Roblox soccer football community as a whole. There's, I feel like back in the day we used to think about this. What if we could play this game, as a part-time job or something, something like that. Where it's competitive enough to where, oh my god, we can actually play this as an esport. I don't think any league has really touched that that kind of that level, other than, let's say, I think PRS is a good shout. I think that the viewers that they get and the amount of people that are interested in that league, obviously they've gotten to that level. But I think this game in particular, you can actually start thinking about, wow, we can expand this, to be a lot bigger. So I think that's really interesting. You know, I also wanted to ask you, like, what are some different things? What are some things that you think Rail Football 24 should have in the game that they don't have, or maybe fixes that you've seen? What are some things that have kind of caught your eye?
well, if it's going to be real football, the in MPS and in previous row soccer games, there's always been a history of a cheesy mechanic or like something to abuse, and it's in every game. And sometimes you can't even fix it; it's just there, and everyone's going to use it at any point. But one that I've noticed is like some form of hombolo. I think you've seen it as well, where you could spam the block tool on the tackle tool. You can spam block. I don't remember what bind it is. I have custom key binds, but you can spam it and it will stay afloat above your head, and it'll look like a
Wow.
hombolo. And don't get me wrong, it looks cool. It doesn't look as OP as people say, but at the same time, if you're aiming for realism, that's probably something you'd want to iron out.
Right.
Otherwise, everything else is pretty good. Like it's up to standards. A bit quality of life here and there. Maybe um more suitable passing, like you like backspin that probably works like very well. You know, you
Oh,
for a game, in my opinion, that doesn't really favor dribbling, I think passing needs to be, subpar. Like, it needs to be perfect to make up for that lack of dribbling.
right. Right. Okay. Cool. Cool. A lot of questions have been asked from the community, and I'll get your take on it too. A lot of people, they wonder about updates. Obviously, our developer, I don't know if you know this, but our developer, he was on a hiatus for a couple of months just because of school and stuff like that. Well, he's back, and he is working every day to try to add some new things, fix stuff, and whatnot. So we'll finally actually start having some stuff getting pumped through. Another thing is like when the league will start. I think a realistic time frame is probably near the end of the month of July, maybe second week of the end of 2 weeks before the end of July, I should say. Hopefully, we'll see. And then another thing was like classes. People were wondering about classes. I do want to get your take. Like, what do you like the class system that most leagues have? Or do you think it works pretty well?
Well, they're everywhere. We both know this.
Yeah.
Classes are everywhere. If they're not called classes, they're called tiers or whatever they like to call them. But the point of classes is what I know or what I believe is that you can use them like to create like this form of restriction, so nobody can't build a super team that's too ridiculous that will end up like farming for years and years on end.
Right.
You know, but if not, it could also be used for like media purposes. You can determine this player. This player you never seen before, but you happen to see him like at the highest class. You're like, okay, this guy has to be good.
Yeah.
It's like a ranking system, pretty much. And whether it's good or not, like it really depends. You can't like change it so you make like the whole community happy. One side's not going to like it, and the other side's going to like this is fine. Restrictions. I can play. I'm like the lowest class, so I don't have to worry about it. And then you have the high class, and that's like they want to play with their friends, but they're all high classes as well. And then you come to that issue. No, you can't really appeal to either side. You have to pick one and stick with it, and how hopefully everybody else deals with it. And it's always been like that. I don't really think you could really make it fair, but also try not to make it unfair at the same time.
Right.
And it's really difficult. So
Yeah.
classes, if not, they're probably gonna do wages if you know that as well, which is not actually wages. It's like another form of restriction. Like there will be a class and they'll have the set wage, and you can only have a certain amount of wage until you're maxed, and then you can't put enough players in, or you can't have too many high classes, something like that. I believe that's they might do, but I can't confirm that.
Yeah. I think the way that they're kind of setting it up for this first season. 5 leagues or whatever. That's the standard, and it's most likely going to be just class based. I think the thing that is we're going to struggle with RFL is like this first season, right? We don't know who's good. We don't know who's bad. We know a good handful of people that are good and a couple handful of people that need a little bit more improvement. But trying to figure out if however many members that want to play, over it's just hundreds of people registering, and we're trying to figure out a class for them. I think some sort of system that changes during the season, throughout the season, is probably the way to go eventually. Where everyone starts kind of at around the same level, and based on individual performance and a little bit of team performance too. Oh, okay, this guy, yeah, he needs to be a lot higher. Or this person, yeah, they're gonna stay where they're at. Whatever. Um, yeah, I think something like that is probably the direction it'll go, but only time will tell.
Bro. And I want to add on to that as well. So I've I've always I don't know if you knew, but I've always been the biggest advocate for no restrictions. And of course that means that this is gonna favor the people that are the highest class. And it's not because, that I believe I might get a high class. I don't know. We never know. But I believe people should be able to play with their friends, and for the longevity where you're playing between season to season, and there's teams that are going to be promoting or demoting like to the second league or whatnot, if that's how it's going to work. You know, I feel like that should be okay, and I think everyone else will go into it. Like for example, if people that played like games like Call of Duty and they go on a multiplayer, there's this thing called skill based matchmaking, and what that is that based on like how you perform, it will match you up with like the best players or the worst players depending how you perform. So if you're playing bad, it'll match you with the bad players. If you're playing too good, it'll match you with the even better players. And at that point, nobody can really, get better at the game because, it's rewarding you for being bad, but it's also punishing you for being good, right?
Right.
In the older Call of Duties, there was no such thing. It was like probably like really small, but
Yeah, no,
not
it
huge
didn't
when it comes
exist.
to
Yeah.
this. Yeah, it didn't exist basically. And when there wasn't, the whole lobby is like a mix of good players and bad players. But that was irrelevant. The point is, you could go into each game and learn how to play. You can get smashed by that one good guy, but then like over time you get better and better and better, and that creates like an effect, like a chain effect. Like one gets better, and then like you know smashes like a weaker guy, and the weaker guy ends up getting better, and then smashes the other one, and vice versa. Like I
Mhm.
believe that's how it should work. But if not, I'm okay with the latter. I don't mind which direction they head into for this. But
It's
you
a
know,
really interesting take. I've always been a big fan of restrictions just because I am against super teams, but I like that idea of just I want to play with my friends, and if we're all X class or S class or whatever, I just want to play this with these guys, and if I can't play with them, I guess I won't play. I don't want to play with you know Duck Fan 555 or some weird whoever.
right, and it's happened before as well.
Right.
Especially what happens down in PRS. There's these high classes that refuse to play because they have to stick with like the restrictions. Like they'll have some of their good friends and good players, and then the other ones are just getting in the way. You can't really do much about it.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I like that take. Maybe we'll do a poll in the media Discord and see what people who they agree with. Do they agree with the restrictions or no restrictions, and see kind of what the people think. Well, I guess last thing, where do you see RFL headed? Do you think that RFL will become the creme of the creme?
That's all going to depend on the first season. The first season has to create a very good first impression because not only you're bringing in like there's people here that I'm not familiar with that probably don't even care how it's heading. They'll just play because they enjoy the game. And there's the other side of people, which I'm probably part of the crop of, um, that came from other leagues and have the highest expectations. So the first league has to swing it out of the park, and if it does, then you're gonna see like exponential growth like throughout the years and every season as well. Like that's what you need. And if there isn't, then I don't think it's going to impact it that much because again, you still have the player base that enjoys the game no matter what. So, but it would be good. It would be good if they swing it out of the park for the first season.
All right. Well, Sock, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for joining me on the first episode of the Extra Time Podcast. You guys stay tuned. We're going to have plenty more guests, a lot more topics to cover, and all things RFL. Thanks, guys.